Welcome to the 700 Club Canada. I'm Lori Hartshorn.
And I'm Brian Warren, and we're thrilled that you've joined us today. Did you know that Canadian entrepreneurs are making an impact in the world? Like Shahrazad Rafati is founder of Broadband TV, which ranks right up there with Google and Facebook.
Amazing. So what does it take to be successful? Maybe passion, motivation, dedication. And how do you define success for your life? Is it a business venture or maybe something close to your home, like with your family? What about you, Brian? How do you define success?
A whole lot different than I did before.
Yeah.
You know, I used to look at it by how much I knew, how much I had, and how much I was able to accomplish.
Okay.
And now I really measure success on how much I'm able to give away and how much I'm able to impact. And it's more on influencing spaces, being a thought leader, and also being able to, at the end of the day, say, God, I finished everything you want me to do. What about yourself?
Well, I resonate with that. I'd say I've moved from the measurable to the immeasurable.
Yes.
Like sometimes success, you can't always measure it, because if success is truly participating with what God wants to do, bringing his kingdom here on earth, you can't always measure that, but to be found faithful doing what God's asked me to do today, I consider that a success.
Yeah, and you know, it's so funny because, and as I said before, you know, playing professional football and accomplishing goals and dreams, or, you know, it was one thing. But I'm looking now with succession, I'm looking at how it will echo into eternity.
Absolutely.
And I really want to make a difference. And I want to be able to say I was a good son, a good husband, a good father, but also that there were people that were impacted and the world was better when I left before I came.
I'm with you. On today's program, you're going to see that God wants us to be successful in everything we do. But more importantly, he wants us to put our trust in him.
And you'll see how one street peddler put her trust in God and found wealth beyond her wildest dreams.
And you'll meet another woman consumed by hard work. You'll see how a spiritual awakening shifted Tree's perspective on God and changed her life.
And we have more courageous living for those of you who are looking for the meaning of true wealth.
But first, Jeanhee became a self-made millionaire, but still felt something was missing.
Take a look.
Self-made millionaire Jeanhee Kang had finally done it. She was living the American dream.
I made enough money to do everything I wanted. I traveled. I could buy anything that I wanted. But ultimately, there was something missing.
Growing up in a small South Korean village, Jeanhee longed to be more than a rice farmer, like her parents. Her father, a gambler and alcoholic, abused his wife and their 5 children.
My father was never around when we were growing up. It was all on my mom. And whenever he came home at night, he'll start beating us. I was thinking we were the trouble for him.
Feeling as though she were a burden to her parents, she tried to prove her worth by being a good worker.
Ever since I could remember, I helped my mom to lessen her sadness, because my dad was never around to help her. And I thought that would have been good enough for her to consider me as a good daughter.
Often, Jeanhee prayed to God for a better life.
I used to pray to him to feel sorry for me and give me some more food. Well, help me run away one day. They kept me going because I knew that I didn't belong there for some reason, and I was getting out.
In school, she studied hard, believing education was her ticket to a better future in America. But when she was 16, her parents heard a false rumor that she'd kissed a boy. Her father slapped her and called her a whore. Her mother offered no defense.
I didn't deserve it. I was looking at my mom to help me here. And she was with my dad's side, didn't bail me out, didn't believe me. And I felt betrayed. It hurts me. I couldn't let it go.
To get back at them, she started rebelling. A few months later, she got pregnant and had an abortion. She was then expelled from school and became a social outcast.
I could never go back to school. I was nobody, and I was ashamed to my parents. They don't want to see me. No one wants to see me. And I said, even God is not here to help me. I was totally hopeless.
So she ran away to the South Korean city of Osan. She became a prostitute with plans of finding a husband from a nearby U.S. military base. Within a year, she was engaged and on her way to America.
I see myself as finishing college and be somebody, have a good job, or live in a good life. When he asked me to marry him, of course I say yes. But I saw the ticket to America, my hope to go back to high school and be somebody.
She eventually earned her GED and an associate's degree, but it wasn't the path to happiness she hoped for. Over the next 10 years, she would divorce 3 times, survive an abusive husband, and have 3 sons. At 30 years old, she was a single mom with $2,200 to her name.
I was still nowhere close to where I wanted to be, but I always thought that if I can just get from point A to B, I can get out of this poor status. I could do something.
It was then she got the idea to start a business selling costume jewelry and accessories.
And that was the ticket to build my life. And I was a street peddler, basically. I would literally pull and go next to the grocery store and a grocery cart and selling stuff, sell.
Just as she'd done as a young girl, she asked God for help. She even went to church on occasion. Meanwhile, her business grew, and within 10 years, she had gone from being a street peddler to a millionaire. It even helped her reconcile with her parents.
As soon as I became wealthy, I took care of my parents. I bought them a house. I would give them plenty of money. That was my way of forgiving my parents.
Then tragedy shook her world. Her 17-year-old son was killed in a car accident.
When I lost my son, I got angry at God. Look, all the things I've done to be their mother and struggle, and you took my son away. Why me? Why mine? And one day at that church, during sermon, I walked out, and I knew that I was never going back.
Over the next 18 years, she focused on her other sons and making money. But still, happiness eluded her.
I should have been happy with all the things I was able to do. But I had something in me that was missing, and I was searching. What is it?
She would soon find out. She became friends with a woman, a Christian, who had the one thing she didn't: joy. Eventually, Jeanhee agreed to go to church with her. The sermon was about the prodigal son.
And there's a big screen that says coming home. And the theme was runaway. And I said, oh, I'm a runaway. That story represented me, that I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home. And where is the home? And it wasn't Korea, it wasn't my mother, it wasn't my father. It was God that I was missing. I said, I want to be God's child.
She realized happiness and a sense of self-worth didn't come through riches or achievement, but through Christ's love and forgiveness.
The love that He had for me, that I cannot buy, it was only that God can give to me. I was only able to see His goodness when I opened my heart to Him and accepted Him to my heart. Every moment that I was facing, the darkest moment, the broken spirit, He was there.
At age 57, Jeanhee earned her bachelor's degree, fulfilling a lifelong dream. She's grateful and amazed at what Christ did for that little village girl praying for help.
That God that I used to pray is the same God right now living in me. And that's what's so special about knowing God. He never gave up. And He wanted me with Him.
Boy, Jeannie had it all, didn't she? At least so she thought. But I love what Scripture, you know, there's over 600 verses about money in the Scripture. Like, it's a serious topic in the Bible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the verse that came to mind when I was watching this, Proverbs 11, verses 28, those who trust in their riches will fail, but the righteous will thrive like a green leaf. Can't put your trust in riches, right, Brian?
Yeah, you know, and it's interesting with Jeanhee. She did something that was in, you know, at the beginning of her life, she made a decision because what she felt and how she believed she was treated. Yeah. And I see so many times people make choices by what's happening to them instead of what's happening in them. I remember when my sister died, you know, I said, God, I'm ready to preach the gospel because I was angry. I was really frustrated inside. And I had to go back to him and say, I am sorry. I'd like to serve you now, not because of a vendetta, but because of your love, because you're so good.
That's good.
You know, it's the fullness of God that we're talking about. It's really understanding not just a season of your life, but being able to see the scope of your life and what God wants you to become, not just what you are and what you were. And we want to get this into your hands. Cost you absolutely nothing, 1-855-759-0700. But in the parable of the lost coin, out of circulation, that was Jeanhee. And when she lost her son, she had to come home. And I believe that coming home is going to happen to somebody today.
Yeah, I believe God is calling you home today. You'll never find your satisfaction in any stuff, in any money, in any kind of success. You will find your satisfaction, and your true home is in God.
Amen.
It's in a relationship with Jesus. So give us a call today and come home to the Savior. Up next, Tree learns that the pursuit of success doesn't always satisfy.
I was brought up to adore God. I was taught to pray every night, to thank Him for the blessings that we had. I would go to synagogue with my father and hold his hand. Our home was filled with joy.
Tree Johnson was just 16 when her father suffered a massive, fatal heart attack.
There was a tremendous shift from the joy. It went to tremendous sorrow. I remember on the day of the funeral, looking out and wondering how people were going on with their lives so joyfully when we were on the way to bury my daddy. My mother, who had been so strong all those years caring for him and for us, was so filled with sorrow that she turned to me and she said, I need you to take care of me.
To honor her mother's request, Tree, a high-achieving student, graduated from high school and went straight to work to support her mother.
That was something that I had a hard time with because I gave up going to college in order to do that.
Tree eventually married and had 3 children. When her husband became abusive, she had only one option.
When I walked out the door, I had my 3 kids, their clothing, and my clothes. I left to protect myself and my children.
Starting over was something Tree had learned from her grandparents, Jewish immigrants who fled Russia to escape persecution.
And when they got here, they started from scratch, and yet all of their children were successful, and it was something that we were taught. You are going to be successful.
Tree continued the family legacy and poured herself into her work.
It was important for me to do better every year. I think part of that was because I did not go to college, and therefore I was going to be a success. And business was the way that I was going to do that.
Around the same time, Tree was invited to visit a Christian church.
I always considered Jesus to be a rabbi. And when I'd see a movie that was about Jesus, I would cry. And when I was in my early 40s, I finally saw him not suffering, but loving.
She married again, but tragedy struck once more when her second husband died suddenly.
I was devastated. That took me a long time to get over.
In 2009, at age 70, Tree retired and built her dream home in Texas. Her daughter had recently come to know Jesus and invited her to a church conference.
We were asked to forgive anyone against whom we had any feelings of resentment or anger. I realized that all those years I had been carrying this disappointment that my mother did not want me to go to college. And so I actually verbally forgave my mom. And that was the turning point for me, because it cleared my mind, my heart, and my soul and my spirit.
Later, one of the conference leaders offered communion.
And he said, well, Tree, you don't have to take communion if you don't want to. And I said, no, I do want to. It's very important to me. I saw Jesus with his arms outspread, and I knew that he was welcoming me. And this was my opportunity to say, yes, I accept you as my Savior.
Tree gave her life to Christ, started attending church, and read the New Testament for the first time.
When I finally took that step and said yes, my life changed totally. The love that I had had for people was so much greater because of the love that he has for me. So kind, so gracious.
Today, Tree is married, and she and her husband Jack, writing under the pen name Track Johnson, are the authors of Winds of Eternity, the Angel Chronicles.
It's a very reverent description in the first 5 chapters of Genesis, as seen through the eyes of the angels who watched God create our earth.
Tree still honors the rich traditions of the Judaism of her youth as she follows a Jewish Messiah.
Going to synagogue, enjoying the tradition, Passover, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, all of those things come together to make me a better Jew, while I am also a Christian. I am now more of a Jew than I was when I was only Jewish. What the Lord has given to me is a peace that literally passes understanding. That is what I have received from Jesus. It's phenomenal. It's joy.
I love Tree's story because, you know, God has amazing ways of bringing people to places that they never saw it coming. You know, when growing up as a young Jewish girl and going to synagogue, I love what she says at the end. She says, I'm more Jewish than I've ever been before, but now I've not only met my rabbi, but I've found new life. I wonder if you're looking for that new life as well. The Bible says that he will give you beauty for ashes. You know, there's a transaction that God gives when we come into a place of new life. And what it is, and I actually started thinking about that and meditating on it. What does it mean to have beauty for ashes? It means whatever is just tearing you up and beating you up, he says, I'll give you a garment of praise for heaviness. And when God covers you up, then what he does with his consuming fire is burns up all that bad stuff. And then he says, now give me your ashes and I'm going to give you my beauty. That's what new life is all about. Our sinful past is forgotten, and now we move into a place of new life and a new day. I want to get it into your hands, and I want to pray with you as well, because after that, I believe God is going to do something supernatural on your life. Why don't you pray this prayer with me? Jesus, Yeshua, Rabbi, I surrender. Please come into my heart. Make me the person you want me to be. In Jesus' name. Now, Baruch Habab Hashem Adonai, Blessed is he and she that comes in the name of the Lord. Now, where you move in the name of the Lord. If you've accepted it, 1-855-759-0700. Prayer partners are standing by. Say, Pastor B, it's me, and I'm coming in the name of the Lord. Up next, Lori returns with a courageous living message just for you.
How can you find God's plan for your life?
CBN presents The Plan, 8 Keys to Understanding God's Will for Your Life. In Pat Robertson's latest teaching, you'll discover the steps to take in following God's plan, how to know for certain when God is leading you, how to get rid of spiritual blindness and see God work.
God said, I've got a plan to give you a future and a hope.
Get The Plan. Available now.
What do you treasure in life? Maybe your response would be family, friends, or your relationship with God. Well, here's a way you can test if you really mean what you say. Take a look at your calendar and your credit card statement. Do they reflect what you just said? Maybe the old saying, put your money where your mouth is more accurate than we realize. In Matthew 6, 19-21, we hear Jesus' words in his famous Sermon on the Mount. He said to us, don't store up treasure here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven where moths and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there are the desires of your heart will also be. Well, the big question from the Sermon on the Mount is the question of, where's your heart? Well, according to Jesus, it can be found wherever your treasure is. Interesting, right? So what do you treasure? Are you preoccupied with stuff, either having it or not having it? Both can be a preoccupation. Is climbing the ladder of success or building your financial portfolio always on your mind? Does the thought of heaven actually bore you? Jesus uses 3 tests to show us how the things we treasure most are only temporary. He uses the moth, rust, and the thief. So what about that moth? It's a tiny little butterfly-looking animal and it appears to be sweet and innocent, but it gets in your clothes and it can eat right through them. And rust, well, living in Canada, we know all about this. With all the salt that's put on our roads in the winter, it can turn a shiny, clean car into a rust bucket in no time if we're not careful. And then there's that thief. From hidden cameras, alarm systems, and secure safes, we do everything to protect our stuff for fear of someone taking it. And what does that thief do? He breaks in and he takes people's personal treasures. So what do you really treasure? If it doesn't pass the moth, rust, and thief test, then it might not be the right kind of treasure. Here, Jesus is calling us to change our minds from the temporary to the eternal, from things that are passing by to things that are permanent. You never see a hearse pulling a U-Haul trailer. Things are only temporary. In contrast, Jesus says in Matthew 6:20, store your treasures in heaven where moths and rust can't destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Here, Jesus is talking about laying up eternal treasures that do not fade away. What are those treasures? Well, Jesus talks about it in 1 Peter 1:3-4, and it says, because God raised Jesus from the dead, now we live with great expectation, and we have a priceless inheritance, an inheritance that is kept in heaven for you, pure and undefiled, beyond the reach of change and decay. As believers, our inheritance is waiting for us in eternity. Being with Christ, that is our reward. So the real question is, where's your heart? Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. So we need to examine our hearts. What do we desire most? What do we think about most? Where do we spend our time and our money? We need to be storing up our treasures in heaven where there are no moths, no rust, and no thieves. So let's pull out our calendars and our credit card statements and do a heart check, because that's courageous living.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
Great teaching, Lori. And you know, one of the things that we have to recognize is we've got to stop worshiping our work, working at our play, and playing at our worship, but flip it around, because only the things that last, only the things that we do for Christ will last.
That's right. And you know, I hope this show has brought an eternal perspective to you. Like, you can get so stuck looking at what you have or what you don't have, or counting your pennies. But I'll tell you, we need to get a perspective on eternity. And it's one thing I really appreciate about this teaching by Pat Robertson in The Plan. He actually shifts your thinking. How do you know the will of God? Well, actually, he gives you 8 steps. And it's really, he tells the story of actually how God led him through the 700 Club ministry starting. It's quite a story. If you haven't heard it, there's another reason why you want to become a monthly partner with us, only $20 a month, and we'll give you this great teaching and also the story behind the 700 Club. 1-855-759-0700. Pat really learned lessons in here about not holding on to pennies or not counting on money, but trusting God and obeying God in spite of the lack of money many times.
And I love that. And it would be great encouragement if you call now. And prayer partners are standing by. And would you also put on your prayer list, Greg from Alberta? He's in need of a job, and to be able to trust God right now.
And Catherine, she needs guidance and provision.
Father, I thank you for Greg, and we believe that you're opening a door right now for him and all of those that are looking for employment. But I pray that, Lord, he would, Matthew 6:33, seek first you and the kingdom, and everything will be added, in Jesus' name.
And we lift up Catherine, and we ask you to guide her and provide for her. Jehovah Jireh, our great provider, you hear our prayers for provision, and you will give us what we need. So I pray that you would guide Catherine into that in Jesus' name.
In Jesus' mighty name. We've really enjoyed being with you. And again, it's living in a different way, because now we're not living out of balance, but we're in balance, because God is at the beginning, and everything else will begin to work out the way he wants when you get in position. We want to leave you with a power verse.
Proverbs 2:7-8 says, he holds success in store for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk is blameless.
For he guards the course of the just and protects the way of his faithful ones. Hey, stay faithful. Until next time.
Take care.
God bless. Now there are more ways to connect with the 700 Club Canada online. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/700 Club Canada. Find us on Instagram at 700 Club Canada, or follow us on Twitter at 700 Club Canada. Just email cba@700club.ca or visit us at 700club.ca.